Hey guys, Harry Wilmington here. So, what are the consequences of making women commit to you in a relationship too soon? A lot of guys go through this. They have a passionate meeting with the woman and they get together in a relationship and then it just goes to crap. Why does that happen? And what can you do to prevent that from happening? We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more on today's Introvert Dating Success Show. Let's get to it.
It's the Introvert Dating Success Podcast, the show for introverted men that's all about learning how to attract beautiful women and still get your precious alone time. And now, here's your host, dating coach and fellow introvert, Harry Wilmington.
What up, guys? Welcome to the Introvert Dating Success Show. Like I said, I'm Harry Wilmington, and this is where you come to learn how to date as your authentic introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. A little low energy today. I went to sleep at like 12 something last night and got up at like 6:30, and I've been like tired all day. But I'm like, you know what? I'm doing the show. Right now, I'm trying to do the show every Tuesday at 3 o'clock. So you can come by here next week for another live show. They go kind of long because I basically record a bunch of content to put up during the course of the week for you guys. So yeah, enjoy it. And while you're here, if you guys have any questions during the course of the show, this show is ultimately about you guys and helping you out. So if you have a question, I'm happy to answer it live right now. I charge a lot of money for coaching. So if you want some free advice, you can do it on this show today. All right. Thanks to you guys for watching. And so we got a lot to cover today. We got a whole lot of stuff we want to talk about, including our main topic, which I'll get to a little bit later, which is the consequences of making women commit too soon. I had a couple people write me, and I saw a few messages on Reddit this week where guys were talking about, hey, me and this girl met, things got really hot and heavy fast. We got into a relationship, and now she's backing away. And I've had that same scenario come across so many times to different guys. And so I want to be able to cover that and talk about it so you will not make the same mistake of rushing in too soon to a relationship anymore. All right. But to start off with, I'm going to go through some just various thoughts I had over the course of the week, and as well as some comments that people left me. All right. So I want to start off with this, right? So for those of you that watch movies, you know that Fast 10, the Fast and Furious number 10, or Fast X, whatever they want to call it, came out this past week, right? So I am very adamant on avoiding trailers as much as possible. I watched the first one, so I kind of get a feel for what the movie's going to be about, but I always know later trailers are going to spoil the movie. So I try to avoid them after that first one at all costs, right? I go on Yahoo last week because I checked yahoo.com for my news, and I'm scrolling through the feed, and the first thing I see is a spoiler for the movie. Now, I'm not going to spoil it for you that haven't seen it at home because I don't want you to have the same experience I had, which is I saw the thing and I was like, why would you put that as the main headline? Like, oh my God, I would have loved to have gone into the movie and not had this major spoiler, because now I'm not going to get the same excitement finding this out on my own because it was just told to me. And then I went and saw the movie. And so the thing they mentioned in the headline happened. I was like, I already knew it was coming. But then there was another thing that happened in the movie that I was not aware of and was not told about, did not see in any of the previews. And when I saw it, me and the whole theater at large gasped like, oh my God, this thing is happening. And I was like so happy and elated that I didn't know that thing, that just suddenly I got to find out in the moment of being in the theater, in the experience of it. So why do I bring that up? Well, because when I read the headline that I read, and then I had the experience I had in the theater, you know me, guys, I correlate everything to dating, right? And so it made me think about the fact that so many guys get annoyed by the fact that they can't just come out and tell a woman everything about them, or be like, a lot of guys will say this, they'll say, well, I don't want to play games with her. So I'm going to let her know every single thing I'm about. I'm going to let her know exactly what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling about her, so she will not be left in the dark. And I think what guys forget is that part of the fun of dating for women is the journey into finding out who you are. And that means not knowing everything about you in the beginning, because it's going to allow them to have these discoveries where they'll be like, oh my God, I didn't know this about you. Oh, wow, I didn't know you felt this way about this thing. I didn't know you had these thoughts about this thing. I didn't know you enjoyed this particular activity. I didn't know you were good at this particular kind of action or activity. Like, I had no idea. And we think it's game playing if we don't just lay it all out on the table and let them know every single thing. And in parallel to the experience that I had, I didn't want to know the spoiler. I didn't want to know going to the movie something that I could figure out in the journey of the movie with the audience, you know? And so when the thing came up that was in the headline, I was just like, oh, well, I knew this was happening. And it really was a letdown because the moment before that something else happened that I didn't know really caused a lot of excitement. And so you got to understand that the easiest way for you to be able to create excitement for a woman when you're trying to get to know her is to let her find out things about you. You know, I've said, for example, in this channel, like I had a hit song like years ago that I put out that I rarely talk about on this channel. But the point is that like when I bring that up in conversation at times, people will be like, wait, that was you? Oh my God, you're the, hey, and it's like, that's the reaction you want from women. When you're, you know, in the throes of like her having a conversation, you might just happen to throw in, oh yeah, I did XYZ thing, or oh, I did this and that. And they'll be like, oh my God, that's so, versus you just trying to bring out every single thing about you on that first and second meetup to where she feels as though, well, he's already told me all the exciting stuff about him and I didn't get to find out. So it wasn't all that exciting. And now I'm just kind of bored. And you can make a woman be bored with you very easily if you're just doling out every single thing. So all that to say, don't be like these annoying news sites now and be the spoiler for the woman that you're dating. Yes, she's going to get to know you, and when she asks you questions, it's important to answer questions, and you want to let her get to know about you. But I'm saying, don't feel like it's game playing or that you're hiding yourself from her if you're not giving it all to her in the beginning. Let her slowly find out things about you because she needs that in her journey towards being attracted to you, if that makes sense. All right. So I just wanted to spit that out at the beginning because I've had that thought in my head since last week when I saw the headline. I was very, very annoyed, but I don't want you guys to make the same mistake in your love lives when you're out there dating and you're thinking, I got to let her know every single thing about me. And then you're wondering why women are getting bored with you so quickly. It's because you let her know every single thing about you. Think of you being with a woman as a lifelong journey. You know, there are going to be things that she's going to be finding out about you 10 or 15 years from now, okay? Don't think that meant that you were game playing or hiding things. Just in the course of a relationship, you're going to be having natural conversation with somebody, and not every single thing about your life is going to pop out in every single conversation, okay? So don't feel bad if she's like, I didn't know that about you, and it's like a year from now. Like, oh, yeah, your story is a long one to tell, and let that story come out when it's the right time. That's all I'm saying. So hopefully, guys, this helps you out a little bit. Let us see what we have here. So I'm going to answer a couple of comments that I got this past week and some other various things. So as I said, guys, the show is ultimately about you. So if you have any questions you want me to answer, you can definitely ask them in the chat. Okay, let's get into this first comment that was left. This guy left a comment and he said, my ex and I were together for a year. She slept with the same guy twice while pregnant. Ugh. And it tore me up. We have been split since December. She slept with him back in February and once a week ago. Now I got this message from him like about a week ago. So she slept with him again this last week or two, you know? He says, he says she was honest with me about it. She claims she doesn't want him because he has 3 kids. Well, that seems like a lie because she might be verbally saying that she doesn't want to be with him, but her actions are indicating that there is some affinity to this guy to where she is willing to let him come inside of her quite frequently because you're getting told, oh, it was just a week ago and it was in February. And I can tell you, all right, women in these situations, when they're like sleeping with these other dudes, they're giving you like a fraction of the truth. Like she's saying, oh, I just slept with him in February, then once again last week. I can assure you either A, she slept with him more than once, or B, she's done other things that don't technically count as sleeping with him, but this could be everything from like going down on him or him going down on her, or, you know, him putting various parts of his anatomy into her anatomy. Like, you don't have to sleep together to not be doing things in the bed. But the point is that everything she's saying, take it with a grain of salt. Like you're feeling as though because she's upfront and honest that you can trust her in the situation, you can't, all right? The fact is she's stepping out on you, and that's no bueno. Anyway, he says, this is our first child. Oh, that's the thing too. When she said she doesn't want him because he has 3 kids. This is what we call her trying to give you a justification for not actually wanting to be with him. Now, her actions are dictating that she's going to this guy and getting banged quite frequently, but she's trying to say, oh, no, don't worry about him. He has 3 kids, so I wouldn't be interested in him, because he's trying to appeal to your logic. Like, because then you're going to say, well, he has 3 kids. Why would she want to be with him? But I can assure you, him having 3 kids has nothing to do with how she feels about him and what her willingness is to actually sleep with him in some capacity. All right. So again, this could potentially be a lie because her actions are saying that in spite of him having 3 kids and her knowing that he has 3 kids, she's still willing to do various physical activities with him, which again is no bueno. Anyway, he says, this is our first child together. Why did you sleep with her without a condom? And he will be here in 3 weeks. Oh my God. Okay. I'm worried. I'm still trying to make it work. I reached out multiple times. I never cheated, and I still haven't slept with anybody since the breakup. But yeah, but that doesn't matter because she has. And you would be fully in your right to sleep with somebody else. Now, I get it because guys have this thing of like, well, if I sleep with somebody else and she finds out, she'll get mad at me, and then she won't want to ever get with me again. And this speaks to the fact that you don't have an abundance mindset and feel that you can get anybody else. Because if you felt that, you would say, well, she dumped me. She's sleeping with somebody else. So you know what? A, we can't be together. And also, I'll find somebody else to sleep with. And if the kid happens to be mine, I'll take care of it. But that does not mean I have to get back with her because I can find somebody else. All right. So he says, I never cheated, blah, blah, blah. I've only slept with her. She is mean to me. We don't talk or text. She says she hates me all the time. Does this sound like a woman that you need to be fighting to be with? A woman that is putting you down regularly and, I don't know, is sleeping with another guy. None of these qualities are qualities that you should be looking for in a potential long-term mate. You know, he says, I hardly text her and I give her time. Nothing works. She lives 4 hours away. I'll be moving back soon and living in my car until I get a house. Please help. I need advice. Well, here's the biggest piece of advice I have. Get a paternity test. Now, you're going to say to yourself, but Harry, I don't want that. And if I ask her to do that, it's going to hurt her feelings. I don't care about hurt feelings. I care about knowing for sure if that child is yours, because you're just finding out about her sleeping with this other guy. And she's telling you, oh, it happened back in February, but this guy could have been somebody she was sleeping with the whole time and just didn't tell you about it, because people are very good at being able to hide in the dark people that they're potentially cheating with. So what I would say is, 1, definitely get a paternity test. Now, number 2, do I feel as though you should try to make it work out with this woman? My honest answer is no. I think she's complete trash, and I don't think that based on her actions that you are deserving of her. And I think this comment was left on my thing about my ex slept with somebody else. And so I did a whole video talking about how if your ex slept with somebody else while you guys are broken up, she's in her right to do that. If she gets back with you, no harm, no foul. This woman, however, she's pregnant, allegedly by you. She broke up with you. I'm guessing probably to be able to sleep with this other dude. I don't know when she allegedly met this guy and when she told you she met him, but it doesn't sound great. But more to the point is that she slept with this guy, then got back. Then I don't know if she even got back with you. She just was telling you that she slept with this guy. And then you're trying to get back with her. And the response is to tell you again, oh, I slept with this guy a couple weeks ago. And also, I'm not going to text you and I'm not going to return your phone calls or text. And I'm also going to tell you that I hate you all the time. So gathering all this evidence together, does this sound like a woman that you should be trying to connect with in any kind of capacity? My answer would be no. So I can't tell you what to do. Ultimately, you got to make the choices you're going to make. I will say, if you're going to try to make it work for the sake of the child, that's also not the best idea, because I have plenty of friends that come from divorced families where they're like, yeah, my parents tried to stay together for the long haul and I saw them fight all the time, and that wasn't good for their psyche either. You know, so you're in a pickle and you got yourself in the pickle, and there was no reason to. You could have slept with her with a condom. So I say, going forward, for any woman that you're dating, unless you have a vasectomy, then I say wear a condom at all times or make sure she's on birth control. And as for this situation, you got a kid coming. If it is yours, if you do a paternity test and you discover the kid is yours, then figure out arrangements and ways to take care of the kid and to see the kid, because unfortunately in this country, there are many laws that are against you. They'll say like, well, it's her kid, so she can have all the custody and take all your money. And that's the situation you get into when you're not using protection. For the rest of you guys watching, you know? So figure all that stuff out, take care of the kid. And I say, find somebody else. I'd say if the kid's coming in and it is yours, you really want to focus on getting that situated first and then focus on dating, because you're going to have a lot to deal with, dude. Like, I don't know how old you are, but like having a kid with somebody that you're not married to and that may be cheating on you with somebody else, like it's a lot to have to deal with. And I don't want you putting that on somebody else and bringing your drama into their situation. So figure out your drama first, and then see what you can do to move on from that situation, you know? But I'd say this woman, I wouldn't recommend trying to get with her. It just seems like a bad look, you know? So sorry, I don't know if that's the answer you want to hear, but hopefully it helps you out. All right. So I want to comment on a couple of messages that I got this week. All right. So obviously on this channel and in my programs and stuff, I don't want to say a set of rules that you need to follow. I have general advice that I have found to be helpful in my dating journey. And so when I give you guys advice, I give you guys advice based on the probability of it working versus the probability of it not working, right? And so it's not that there can't be outliers, because there definitely can be. It's just that I don't want you to bank on you being in a situation that's a little bit out there that you're going to be able to make successful, because I've seen in my journey that more often than not, you're not going to be the exception to the rule. But that said, I have a couple messages that I got whereby guys were pointing out examples of situations that they saw or they are in where that is very much the case. And so I want to read those and then kind of give my 2 cents on these situations. All right. So this first guy, I have a video that I did called Real Life Consequences of Dating Single Moms. And that's where I'm giving general advice, basically, where guys had written under my comments of my previous video, 10 Reasons Not to Date Single Moms, where they were basically saying, yeah, the stuff you talked about in that video, I experienced these various things, and this is why I don't recommend doing it either, right? So again, general advice video. So this guy left a comment under there, and he said, I love my single mom. She treats me great with no headaches or drama and is very submissive and obedient. Oh, and very affectionate too. So he's basically saying that, I've said in these videos that sometimes single moms can be bitter and that they might have resentment towards the ex that left them or they left them or whatever. And so they might not always have the best of attitudes. They might have a situation going on where there's a lot of drama involved. And so it can create headaches and drama. And also because they're the head of their household, they're very used to being the one to make all the decisions. So when it comes to you being in the situation with them, they might not be as submissive because they're so used to ruling everything with an iron fist, right? So again, this is an example of, I have never anytime said, don't date single moms ever. I said, if you're asking me if I would recommend dating a single mom, my answer would be, I could not recommend that, because for every single mom that is good out there, there's like other women that are single that are also good and don't come with the baggage of having children attached to them. Now, regardless of whether the kid is good or bad, children are going to be baggage. They're things that came from a previous relationship that still have to be dealt with, because the past, i.e. their father, if their father's in the picture, is still going to be somebody that you also have to deal with. Now, does this mean this guy's in a bad situation? Absolutely not, because there are single moms out there that have a good head on their shoulders and that are about their business, and more importantly, have handled their drama and life situation to where they can bring somebody into the situation and not have so much drama thrown upon them. And even with that, though, this guy is saying that based on now. He doesn't say he's married to her. He could be, but more to the point, that doesn't mean that drama will never come up. With kids, inevitably, whether something at school happens or something on the dad side of things happens, drama can still pop up. It could just be that she's better at handling it, and kudos to her. But here's the thing. He happened to find the single mom. That's fantastic. I would not now come on here and say, hey, so because he found a single mom that was absolutely great and affectionate and no headaches, that you should do the same thing. I would still say that is an exception to the rule, and that is a crapshoot. But the probability of this being the positive situation that it is a lot less than you finding a woman that has no kids, that is single, that doesn't have that baggage in her life, that's going to be able to pay more attention to you and your relationship, and you can build stuff together. That's going to still be a better situation. If you happen to find a single mom that checks all your boxes, I say kudos, please make it work, because I am not downing anybody in this world finding love. And the reality is there are plenty of single dads and moms out there that are able to find love and reconnect and build and be able to have a happy lifestyle. It's not as high of a probability of that as finding somebody that doesn't have all that stuff. So yeah, is it an exception? Yeah, but I wouldn't want, again, to make you think that you're going to be able to find that same exception easier than you would finding somebody that's already single. So that's the first one. And then I have a guy that I've been coaching, and he mentioned, this is just a random message that he sent me, but he said, there's a person on my work team. He's been texting this girl in this different country every day for the past 3 years or so. This girl is hot, and she is a singer. She performs on stage, has an amazing voice, whereas this other guy that's on my team looks and acts very similar to Dwight on The Office. He's the guy that was kind of pudgy. He had the glasses and the hair, and he was very he could be very narcissistic at times. If you guys ever watched The Office with Steve Carell, it's a great show. Anyway, he says, yet she invited him over there to live with him for 2 months and then didn't want him to leave. So crazy. So you might think, okay, is this going against what you talk about? Because, she's very hot. She's a singer. She's probably very, very popular and all this stuff. And yet somehow this nerdy looking dude, it looks like a dude from The Office, is able to get her to be like falling all over him and inviting him over and probably paying for his trip. And now she's trying to beg him to stay over there. Like, and my answer is like, that's how it should happen. And I think the disconnect is that guys will see that and be like, wait, how's this nerdy guy that's really kind of dorky getting this really hot girl? And that speaks to what I always talk about, which is that you guys are trying to base your stats of what a woman's going to want on what you would want. Like you're thinking, well, if she's a singer, she's famous, and she's got a nice voice, and she's really, really pretty, how would she want a nerdy dude? But that's because you're thinking, well, if I saw a girl, if I saw a girl that was like ugly and whatever, this is that, then I wouldn't want to date her. But women are looking beyond just surface stuff. We don't know what her and this guy's conversations are. We don't know if he's saying stuff to make her laugh or to feel vibrant and funny, or the fact that she is a singer means that maybe he's the one person that doesn't seem to want her for her looks or her fame or whatever. It's just, he just really wants her authentically for her, And women will do that. Like women that really have a high interest in you and that love you and care for you, they will do things like pay for you to come see them, pay for your trips, pay for your dinners, all this other stuff. And so, you might be thinking, but that doesn't make sense. But it does make sense if you realize that he had other things about him that he knew to accentuate to make her want to fall for him, whether maybe it wasn't his looks. Again, maybe it's his personality. Maybe they just really vibe well, whatever. But like, he was smart enough to realize, okay, I'm not the best looking guy. What things can I bring to the table? Here's the other thing too. A lot of hot women don't get hit on. They have all these other, you're sitting there thinking, well, this girl's probably got a bunch of dudes hitting on her, probably does, and none of them are approaching her because she's so hot. So this guy happens to have the guts and the balls to just go up to this girl, or I don't know how they met, if she's in a different country, maybe through texting or whatever, but is able to like be bold enough to step to her and say, hey, I think you're hot, I want to see you, blah, blah, blah. Then that confidence and that boldness is going to be the attractive thing that makes her fall for him, But anyway, so then he says, there was this other girl that was saying that her first date with this high school hunky guy, she was so afraid of the first date that she asked him if she could bring her friend Vicky along. So her first date with him was a group date, and then they started dating after that. So there are all kinds of things here that go against the typical rules. So what he's referring to is this, is that I typically tell you guys in the first 3 months of dating, ideally it's going to just be you and her. And that you don't want to really bring friends around because friends can oftentimes taint her perception of you, because not only does she not have a full picture of who you are yet, but the friends don't have a picture. And a lot of women's friends honestly are judgmental and are thinking like, I got to look for all the red flags in this guy for my girlfriend. And in the process of that, you could be out, And so, but to his point, like this is a situation where she was nervous for that first date. And so she invited a friend along. Now, when my mom was younger, she was friends with my now aunt. Well, I guess always my aunt technically because we're in the same family bloodline. But the point is that when they were friends in school, my aunt was like, hey, you should meet this guy who became my dad. He's a really cool guy. And my mom was like, I don't want to do that. I don't deal with guys, I'm nervous, yada, yada, yada. And she said, well, hey, why don't we go have dinner at his place? I'll be there so I can, if anything weird happens, I'll be in the buffer zone, but like you guys can meet and there's no pressure. And so that's what they did. They went to my dad's house, apartment at the time, and it was my aunt, my mom, and then my dad, and they all had dinner together. And then from that first date, she really liked him. And well, I'm here, so the rest is history. But so that's not to say that can't work, but you got to really look at the whole scope of when these situations are happening, okay? Because usually when I'm talking about the whole friends thing, this is what will happen, right? A guy will be friends with a girl for a long time and not tell her that he's crushing on her. And then one day out of the blue, he's like, hey, I really like you and I want to take you out on a date. And now this girl who's been his friend forever is like, what's going on? But because they're friends, she doesn't want to hurt his feelings and say outright no. So then she'll say, well, what if I bring a friend along instead? And that's what I'm talking about. Because in those situations, that's a situation where the girl is bringing along a friend because she doesn't want to say no to your invite to hurt your feelings, but she doesn't have romantic feelings. And she already knows that based on her having a history with you. And she's probably already hung out with you by herself before in some capacity. But at that point, she didn't think you were trying to make it a date. Now that you're making it a date, she feels uncomfortable and she's getting those ew feelings, but she doesn't want to get rid of you because you're still a good friend. So she's going to bring somebody along to buffer that. And I had that happen plenty of times in college where it was like, I'd show up at the movies with a girl that agreed to go to the movies with me. And then all of a sudden I get there out of nowhere. There's a friend there with her, but we already had a rapport. So it was like, okay, so that means that she's clearly not trying to date me. Right. So if this is a situation where this other girl is saying, I don't know if I want to do that. I'm kind of nervous and apprehensive. So I need somebody to bring me along to cure my nerves. And so you as the guy have to be able to determine the difference between these situations, because you're going to have one situation where a girl's going to say, hey, can I bring a friend? But you got to look at how long have you known the girl you're trying to ask out? Is this a thing where she's trying to make it a buffer and therefore she's not actually feeling you? Or is this a girl that you just met for the first time? You asked her out and then she's saying she wants to go, but she's super duper nervous. And she comes along and says, hey, so is it cool if I bring a friend along? I just want to, make sure we have a good evening. I'm kind of nervous and blah, blah, blah. You can say to her, hey, that's totally cool. And have it be that one time that it happens. And then based on that first date, assuming that she's less nervous, then if she continues to try to bring friends along, that you can be like, okay, like now this is tripping. Now she's going from like she was nervous to she's bringing a friend every single time. Like that's kind of weird, right? But again, you have to be good at reading situations and seeing what's actually going on, where her feelings actually are, and then determine if based on that, if you're actually in a good place to where it's not going to be a detriment if you bring a friend along, or that she's not bringing a friend along to try to buffer between any potential romance you're trying to build. But even with all that said, this is still a fluke situation. So would I come on here and say, hey, you know what? You should never allow a woman to bring a friend on a date, but there's every so often, blah, 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 blah. Ultimately, I'd say no, because the majority of women out there are totally fine going on a date solo with you in a public place. No harm, no foul. All right. And so this is why I say, even though these are examples I've read now of like exceptions to the rule, I can't teach based on exceptions because there's a high chance that you're not going to be the exception, that it really is just the girl doesn't want to see you by herself, so she's going to invite a friend along. To be like, well, yeah, you could date a single mom, but the majority of them are going to come with baggage and situations you got to fix, and you got to determine if you want to do that or not. But I can't sit here and say you should totally do that because I think you'll be the exception, because I don't think you will be. I think you're going to fall into line with the majority of other guys, which is the majority of the time, if you're dating single moms, more often than not, there's going to be drama that comes with that. Just like more often than not, if a woman is bringing a friend along on a date, it's a high probability that she's probably just not feeling you. But again, read each of these situations. I'm just the guy on the internet giving you advice. You have to know your situation for what it is and say, okay, well, Harry, I hear your advice. My situation feels like this, so I'm going to go with my gut instinct and go with the single mom, or let this girl bring a friend on a date and say, hey, totally cool to you. I could be wrong. But for what purpose of what I do, I have to preach in generalities and things that I just know based on my dating life have overall worked. Your experience, as always, may vary. All right. So hopefully, guys, that helps you out. So before I get on to the next thing, guys, like I said, this show is ultimately about you. So if you guys have any dating questions that you want to ask me, you can leave them in the chat and I'll be happy to answer. At some point, I'm going to start doing call-in shows where you guys can basically like click on the link and then come up and actually talk to me on screen. I'm still figuring out how I want to do that. So that'll be coming shortly. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, leave them in the chat. Got my water right here. All right. So let's get on to another thing I want to talk about, right? Online dating. So there is a great thread on Reddit. It's by the people that made the Hinge app. I used Hinge for a while. I highly recommend it. And people will put up their profiles on there so you can judge them and say, hey, I have a profile that's up now. Let me know what you think, right? And so there was a guy that put up this profile, and I want to talk about it because I want to basically talk about this, is that a lot of you guys mention the idea of you want to be your true, authentic selves, and you want to just lay it on the table and let her know for sure right away everything about you and how you are, just because in our head, we're thinking, if I do that, it'll make it easier on her, all right? And I try to express to you guys that it's totally fine with you being yourself, but you need to sometimes dole out what I'll call the more off-kilter or weird or crazy parts of yourself, all right? And I'm going to bring up this guy's profile right now. Hold on a second. Let's see. Pull this up. Skate this side. Here we go. Okay, right. So I blinked his eyes out because I don't want to like you guys go to find him on the internet. But like, anyway, so this guy, he put up his profile on Hinge and he expressed, I want to point this out. He expressed that he was having a hard time getting matches on dating apps and he wanted our help, right? So I'm going to show you his profile here real quick, right? So this is his first picture. When you first get to his profile, this is the picture that he has up. Now, I want to tell you guys, this guy's 25 years old, right? He's 25. Keep that in mind. So this is his first picture. This is what girls first see when they get on the app. So then you get to the first prompt. This is life goal of mine, complete my literature PhD and publish a book on Edward Fitzgerald. And then in parentheses, he says, you don't need to know who that is. No one does. Now, to me and some of the other people on Reddit, the way that's worded came off a little pretentious. All right, but we'll get to that in a second. So then the next thing he says, he has a picture right here, him and a buddy of his like hand wrestling, and he's in this kind of weird outfit. I don't know what that's about. Then he has this here, right? Again, 25-year-old guy on a dating app. He's wearing a flower shirt. He's got long hair. If it weren't for the beard, he'd be giving off a very feminine vibe, right? So then we get to this here. Together we could enjoy each other's company while the world romantically crumbles down around us. It's not the worst prompt in the world. It's just not giving any vibes or giving. With prompts online, you want to put up prompts and answer them in a way that's going to help women spark a conversation with you, because what we want ultimately is women reaching out to you. I have a whole program on my website called Smart Digital Dating that talks about this kind of stuff. It's also part of the Introvert Dating Success Coaching Academy. Anyway, so then he has this picture where, again, he's 25 years old dude. The long hair and I know some women are into like dudes with long hair, so I can't fault him on that because some women like that. But just look at the rest of the entire outfit. Like, he's not really giving off the masculine essence that for purposes of dating apps would really help him a lot more. So then he has this. My most controversial opinion is the Protestant Reformation and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. Now, for those of you that don't know, that is actually a quote from the Unabomber's manifesto. Yes, that guy that was in a shed back in the day. This is his manifesto. So this is supposed to be a joke. What woman's going to get this? Especially a 25-year-old woman. Like, I'm 41 and I barely remember the Unabomber. That was like the mid 90s, right? So you have to rely on a 25-year-old or around that age woman understanding what this quote is and understanding it's a joke. So his humor is not coming across on these dating apps. And then he has this picture found in my 90s time capsule. Then it says 1890s. Now, that is a funny prompt. That is actually very, very hilarious because you think, oh, 1990s, and then he goes to 1890s. So we'll give him this one. Pretty funny. And then he says, help me identify this photo bomber. And it's like a goat's head with something. It's just some weird thing. So anyway, so I want to stress again, this guy is 25 years old. And he was asking for help. He was saying, hey, I don't know what's going on. I'm only getting matches like every so often, and they don't really stick. What's going on, right? So I gave my 2 cents. And I said this. I said, I'm saying this only because you've expressed not getting many matches in the past. Your profile gives off the vibe of a 40-year-old school teacher who is at times trying to be hip, but doesn't know what to do. At 25, you should be giving off a vibe that better matches your age. And yes, I found the parentheses pretentious feeling. I don't think you meant it that way, but that's the point. How you mean it doesn't matter if how they are taking it and reads it causes them to feel a certain way about you, right? Because that's totally true. I think the thing that guys don't understand is that we're thinking in our head, I'm going to logically put this thing on my dating app and women are going to get what I mean when I say things. And dating apps are really about creating a vibe. It's about basically giving a woman the idea, the essence of what she's going to be getting into when she dates you. And more often than not, because women are feeling based, they want to feel ultimately that you're going to be like a fun guy, maybe a guy that really knows a little bit more than her, that can teach her some things or can take her on these new adventures. And that's going to be really like cool to be around. So, and she also needs to be able to picture that you're somebody that when she goes to her friends and they ask, hey, who you're dating, she can basically say, hey, I'm dating this cool guy. He's into this and this and this. You only met on the dating app, but he's so fun in person. He has a lively conversation, all these other things. And I don't think guys really think into the far end of like that being a thing for women. They just think, I'm going to logically put some pictures up that I just randomly found because it shouldn't matter about what the pictures are because I can just be myself and I'm going to just write whatever, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so then this guy writes back. He says, I said the thing about at 25, you should be giving off a vibe that better matches your age. And his response was, most people my age aren't interesting to me, at least not enough for me to want to date. I'm fine waiting for the weirdos. I'm a bit out of kilter with mainstream. I'd be stupid to deny it. So I want the profile to authentically reflect that, at least somewhat. Also, where are you getting the trying to be hip from? I don't think there's anything hip in my profile at all. And that's my point. His profile is giving the impression that he's trying to be hip, even though At 25, he looks 40, and the clothes that he's wearing, the things that he's doing give off the hippie vibe, which is even more of an older feeling type of vibe, you know? But here's the point, is that this is an example of a guy comes on to a forum to ask for help and insights in what he's doing wrong. And when somebody gives him that advice or gives him those insights, the response back is, well, this is the way I am, and a woman should just be able to deal with who I am, and that's what I want, and blah, blah, blah. And I point this out because there are plenty of guys out there that do this, whereby you'll be wondering what's wrong with what I'm doing in dating, yada, yada, yada. And then whether it's me or somebody else comes along and tries to point out, hey, you know what? These things could be things. Your response is, I don't want to do that. I want to be who I am. Women should just accept me for who I am. How are you going to get the results you want if you aren't looking into the feedback that you're asking for? Because you are in your head all day. You're not going to be able to see the outside world's viewpoint of you. And so it's important to ask for that. And it's important, I bring this up. I released the album called The Kevin Samuels Was Right. Let me put this up here real quick. Called Kevin Samuels Was Right. And I got a lot of great feedback on it. It was fantastic. I sent it to a coworker of mine at this place that I work at here in LA. And to his credit, he liked the album. He said it was very great, great punchlines, blah, blah, blah. And then he gave me some really good, some very positive feedback. And then he also gave me feedback on things that for future songs that I do, I could work on to have even more of an impact. Now, granted, I didn't ask him for any critique of this album whatsoever. I just said, hey, just listen to it. I put it together. But like, as he was saying things, I was like, you know what? I appreciate that he took the time to actually tell me the things that I could improve on for future stuff, because that only helps me get better. And it's insights that me being in my head all day, I wouldn't have gotten. I can't get better at things that I'm trying to do if I don't take realistic criticism from people that care about me and say, hey, you're doing great, but these are some areas that you could be working on to be even greater. And how cool is that? That people actually, like me, I care about you guys immensely. So if you guys come to me and ask for advice, I want to be able to tell you, hey, you're effing up here, here, and here. This is why women aren't responding to this, and that. And I don't want you to take that and be like, oh, but then, and take it as an attack on you, because it's not an attack on you. It's realistically, you're at the point where you're at because up to this point, you've learned how to operate in a certain way. And if that way is not serving you, then it simply means that you have not gotten the right advice or insights that could take you to that next level. At the point that somebody's giving that to you, you can decide to brush it off like it's nothing. Or you could say, you know what? I'm going to really like sit with this and think about it and feel what this person's saying and see if what they're saying has merit, and then figure out if there is merit there, what things I could change and improve upon based on the feedback that I've just now gotten, right? Speaking of feedback, by the way, so we'll go back to the smaller screen. So this guy got feedback aside from just me. So he got a woman wrote back to him and said, as someone who is probably your target demographic, I want to echo that this profile comes off as condescending. I was intrigued because I got this vibe from just your first picture, and she got the vibe of him being condescending on the first picture, all right? Important. She says, I wanted to swipe to see if it got better, but instead the instinct was reinforced by prompts and other photos. Taking your age into account, I get a sense from you. I get a sense that you are intellectually insecure because the profile reads as overcompensating. I think it is less an issue of this is my authentic self and more, I want people to see me as esoteric, literally a literary genius, basically. I'm sorry, I can't read that word. Anyway, she says, I would reflect on why you feel like it is necessary to present yourself this way and who you are outside an academic context. And that's all I got was that. I was like, oh, I'm academic. Oh, I'm very smart. Look at my pictures. I wear these glasses and I think I'm wearing a professor's outfit. So I'm like that's his whole vibe. But he's trying to get women that are going to be looking for like fun, vibrant guys. And he looks like a stick in the mud. And then she says, I don't see any indication of hobbies or even basic enjoyment of small pleasures. I can infer you enjoy quirky fashion. This results in the only judgment I can make from information provided being you are a pretentious academic. Exactly. So then he says, you make a good point that hobbies and habits aren't much communicated. I often write/perform poetry, waste hours on strategy games, take long walks in the park, and party whenever I can. Some of that I could perhaps put across. My logic with here's where logic gets us in trouble, guys, because just because you're thinking logically about something doesn't mean it's the right logic for the thing you're trying to do. He says, my logic with the prompts was, first shows my passion and drive, and the other two combined show my outlook and humor, which again, his humor is not coming across in the way that he's thinking it is. He says that kind of stuff to me seems way more important than simply listing hobbies, but maybe I'm wrong. And this goes to the point I want to make is that, yes, guys, you have to stop looking at like how you think something should work and look at how it actually works. He's putting all these things up thinking, well, because I like these things about myself, a woman's going to like it also. And this goes back to what I was talking about earlier about you being weird and eccentric. That's one of those things that for purposes of what a dating app is for, the dating app is for you to be able to advertise yourself in a way that women are going to be like, yeah, I'd go out and test him out for a date, you know? And so you got to look at it like the analogy of a frog boiling in hot water, right? If you boil a thing of hot water and then try to throw a frog into the water, that frog is going to be trying to jump out and be all crazy and whatever because it's getting too much heat at once. Versus if you put a regular, don't do this at home, don't kill frogs, okay? But if you put like some room temperature water in like a pot and then put the frog in, and then you turn the boiler on, that frog will stay in the pot until it dies. Why? Because it's being able to get used to the temperature over time to where it's not being aware that, oh crap, if this water's getting hotter, I'm gonna die from this hot water. So the analogy is this is why it's important to dole yourself out to women slowly, because one, they're on a 2 to 3 month journey with you anyway to get to know you so they can better solidify their feelings, right? So, but beyond that 3 months, they're going to be dating you 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And so you should be a slow build. You should not be trying to tell a woman everything about you in that first meetup, all right? It's perfectly fine to let her know and learn about the different kinds of hobbies you have, the different kinds of events you like going to, the different kinds of materials you like to read and stuff like that over a course of time. It is not the dating app's job for you. It's not your job on a dating app to let her know all this stuff, because some of the stuff you're going to give her without in-person explanation or experience of you, it's going to be something that's seen negatively. Like this dude, again, he's got long hair, looks like a professor, and has these various jokes about the Unabomber or whatever. Well, those are things that would come off better in person. So on the dating app, though, he just needs to give off enough of a vibe about himself to where the woman's like, he seems like a reasonable enough guy, I can go out. And then you go out, have that first date, maybe mention something that's on the profile now that shouldn't be there. That's just like, oh yeah, I doing a thing about this author, but nobody knows who she is. Like, see, that delivery, that nobody knows. That's giving off a laughing vibe of like, oh, nobody's gonna know who this person is. I'm so nerdy for knowing this person. I hope that if you know them, great, but if you don't, I understand. But that's a vibe giving off, right? Versus reading it with text that has no emotion behind it. It just comes off as pretentious. And so this is why it's important for you as a guy to understand the difference between what things you need to put on the dating app and what things you hold in reserve for later in the dating process. And I try to stress you guys again, because I know a lot of you guys think, but I don't want to play games. I don't want to hide stuff, yada, yada, yada. It's not hiding it. Women are going to be enthralled by being able to learn things about you in bits and pieces in the dating process. You trying to give it all to her on these first few dates, or all of it on this dating app in particular, you're going to have a lot of women that pass you by, because you're not going to be able to, the dating prompts only give you so much text to be able to type out, right? So you can't type a whole paragraph about what you meant when you said a thing, or that you're being joked because X, Y, and Z. So if you have a joke, for example, that you think might not read well, save it for the date and put something else. And I have a whole program, the Smart Digital Dating Program, where I talk about the things you should be putting in your prompts that are going to better serve you. If you need help with that, go to the website. Also offer coaching for this stuff. Click on the coaching tab at introvertdatingsuccess.com. We can get you a better looking dating app profile altogether that's going to actually get you legit results. All right. I'll do this thing because I wanted to put in this thing before we head off for this one, because I think there was another thing he said that I may want to touch on, but I'm not sure. Okay, this guy's just talking about the things that he wants and whatnot, but it's the same thought process, which is basically like, yeah, like don't be so stuck on the idea of who you are that you end up, and to be honest, who you are right now can technically be great, but there's always things we could be fixing about ourselves. So don't think that you're completely perfect right now, and that how you are right now, if you're having problems dating, that means that how you are right now, while well-meaning, is not the best version of you that women want to date. And there's nothing wrong with like realizing that and changing some things and adding in new things and taking out some things that don't fit you anymore. Like none of that stuff is wrong. All right. Just wanted to point that out. All right, so before we get on to the next section, like I said, guys, the show is about you. So if you have any questions you want to ask in the chat, you're definitely welcome to do so, and I'll be happy to answer any of your guys' questions. So let's see. So this guy left a comment under my "she likes you but won't reach out, here's why" video. So this guy left a comment. He said, "I'm usually quiet most of the time. I let them talk. That's how it should be. If she decides to be quiet, I'll remain the same. A lot of times, girls go quiet just to see if you will freak out and lose confidence. If you start chatting up when she goes quiet and look nervous, she knows you don't feel confident or you're trying too hard. You have to maintain your masculine frame at all times. And if you maintain it while being quiet, she will feel comfortable. The silence won't be awkward because they feel it's a quiet connection." And that's very true. And that's especially a really important note for you introverts out there because, hey, I'm an introvert. I get it. Years ago when I was dating, I would feel all kinds of weird because I'm thinking, for one, oh my God, I'm quiet, I'm an introvert. And then let's say we had a conversation and then all of a sudden it just goes silent. I'm thinking, oh crap, she's getting bugged because I'm not saying anything in this moment. And I need to think of a conversation to say, and oh my gosh, like what's going, and you get in your head about it, you know? But there really is something to be said for like letting there be quiet moments, letting her be the one to be like, oh crap, he's not saying anything, I'm not saying anything. And you're sitting there like, this is just a moment, like, because I realize too, the more comfortable with somebody that I am, I don't have to feel like there has to be a conversation going all the time because just the energy of the other person dictates that we're fine. We're comfortable with each other. I don't need to say anything or try to break tension in the room. But then if I happen to have a random thought that comes up, then I can talk about it. That's the thing too, is that I think sometimes, even though what he's saying is absolutely true, I think part of it also is that like we sometimes think as guys that we might be having a thought and thinking, but I don't want to say that thought because it just makes no sense. Like I've had plenty of times where I'll be like, I have a thought right now, but it's not within the context of the thing we were just talking about. And if I say it out loud, it's going to just be coming out of the blue. So what's the point in saying the thing? And so I just sit there with it. But recognize that women are great at this. Women are great at like, you say a thing, like anything that seems like it's going to be random and off topic, and they will make it into a full-on conversation, you know? So also get better at that. Get better at like getting out of your head and thinking that the thing you're thinking that you want to say, you can't say because it's going to be weird, because women are fine with weird conversations. But also be cool and like, you know, maybe she said a thing, you said a thing, she said a thing, and then the conversation just kind of stops. And now you're just sitting there, whether you're in the car or just eating dinner or whatever. Like don't think that you have to constantly try to think up things to talk about, because women like being in quiet moments with guys. They'll be like, you know, just thinking like, oh, he's just so great. And man, like I'm having such a great time on this date, or, you know, just sitting in this person in the car is just so great. And I just love the vibe of everything. And they're sitting there thinking about how great you are. And you're sitting there nervous, like, I'm not saying anything. Like, give her the moments to like not say stuff so she can kind of like, you know, decompress a bit and really just take in the moment and vibe of being with you. Because women like to feel the vibe of you as well as hear the words you're saying, you know? So for those guys who get nervous about that, hopefully that helps you out. All right, so take a drink of water real quick here. So I got one more comment, then we'll go into the crux of the show. So this guy says, I wish dating could be romantic for men too. And he says, as a guy, it feels like I have to do all the heavy lifting. Witty banter with her, ask her out on a date, logistically plan the date, pay for the date, ask her on a second one. I have to break the touch barrier. I have to initiate the hugging, the hand holding, the kissing, the making out, etc. I have to escalate in a window of time before she loses interest and moves on to her other 300 matches. I'll get to that in a minute. He says, I have to make things romantically perfect, holding hands, walking around the park at sunset, and just so happening to end up at my place after a day of adventures with cold white wine ready. For once, I would like to be romanced. All this crap that happens phenomenally from a woman's perspective is backbreaking from the man's perspective. Well, guy, here's the reality of dating, especially in the first 3 months, is that your job in the first 3 months is to make sure she has a good time and to do romantic things for her. If she happens to do that back, that's actually great. That's a good sign that she recognizes she has to do her part. But I say this because I stress this part, right? Is that for you, what happens with women is that romance just happens to them. You know, it's like we do things that ideally they don't think we're going to plan for them, and that we're doing little surprises here and there. And that makes them feel loved and cared for, because it shows them that on our own, we're already figuring out ways to take care of them. And it's important for women to feel that, because outside of the dating realm, there's going to be plenty of times that it happens, whether it's like, hey, babe, I'm about to do the laundry and I got it for you. Or, hey, babe, I'm going to the store. I want to know what you're going to get. Or, hey, babe, we need to move to this different location because it's a lot safer for us to live in versus the neighborhood we're in now. Like, women are going to look for you in the lifetime of this to be able to see and feel that you're doing things to actually take care of her. But that starts with the dating phase. So for the purpose of the dating phase, yeah, a lot of this stuff is going to feel like it's happening to them. But during the dating phase, romance can't just happen to you. I'm sorry, it just can't. Like, of the two of you, nothing you do should be a surprise. Everything you do for the woman in those first 3 months should be planned out. You should, and I mean this sincerely. Like, I know it can sound very anal attentive, some of the stuff that I talk about, but like, you need to be going so far as like to plan when you're going to try to do that first touch, or to plan when you're going to take her on certain kinds of dates, or to plan when you're going to approach her for a hookup, or plan like these various romantic things you're going to do to her at certain times, or plan the exact date you're going to get her flowers. Like, these are things that you cannot leave to happenstance. You are going to be planning out dates, locations, times for things. You're going to be looking up menus before you go to restaurants to make sure that you can afford the place and that the meal that you're going to be having there is something that she also likes. Like, yeah, your whole job during these first months of dating is to plan the crap out of everything, because she needs to see that you're a planner, and that it indicates to her that you're going to take care of her, okay? But with guys that haven't been romanced before, they look at dating as a chore, and they look at it as like, I'm going to do all this stuff for her, and it's never going to get around to me. And what I have found is that when you are the one that's coming to her and you're inviting her for dates and you're taking her out, you're showing her a good time and you're asking her questions about herself and you're making her laugh and you're doing all these things, her being able to see you do these things and see that you're willing to care for her and show her a good time and treat her well, that now is the buy-in for her to do the same thing back. And what I've typically found is that this doesn't usually take more than like 2 or 3 dates. Like, if you are on your P's and Q's for those first couple of dates, what I find is by date 3 or 4, she's hitting you up to say, hey, I want to take you out on the thing. Or you'll go to like a dinner that you planned out randomly. And then she'll be like, oh, hey, babe, my treat. You've been treating me so well. I just wanted to show a little appreciation. Or she'll get you a little gift that you didn't think you need. Like, hey, I just got this little doodad at the store. So I just really thought of you. And it'll start out small. It'll come in small things here and there. It won't be like at the level you're doing it. But as you're showing your heart more to her and as she's building a like for you, you're going to find that women, I found, when you get them to that level, they're going beyond, because they'll do things like, hey, I know you're going on a trip somewhere, so I got you this thing for your bag. Or, I know you're going to go see your mom or something like that. So, I just want you to have this thing to make it easier visit. Like, they do stuff like that. That's, guys, we don't really oftentimes think of. We're thinking of the tactile stuff like, oh, I'm going to feed her. I'm going to, wash the car for her and this and that. And they're thinking about like life stuff, but you have to be patient. You have to be able to show her early on that you can be romantic, that you can be kind and caring, because she's had other dudes in the past that probably took advantage of her being that way to them. And so she's just making sure that you're going to be able to prove to her that you're going to be on the level that she's going to be willing to show you down the line. But yeah, for guys in the beginning, don't expect a lot of romance. Like, just don't. Like, expect for those first 3 months, it is you showing proof. Her version of that is she's showing up on time. She's looking pretty. She's smelling pretty. She might occasionally like chip in for the tip here and there. But for those first 3 or 4 dates, like, just don't expect that. Expect that you're going to do that work. And then at the point that you guys, honestly, hook up and sleep together, you're going to probably start to see a little bit more affection for her, because now at the point that you've hooked up with her, now that's a big buy-in for her. That's like, I've given my body to this guy. But now I don't want to feel like I'm being used for that. So now I got to do things to make sure he's going to want to stay around beyond just me for a hookup. And that's where you'll start to see a lot of the quote unquote romantic stuff come in, right? But I also want to point out a few things here too that he got wrong, because I think guys that are very down on dating or don't have a very high outlook of dating oftentimes put things in these big absolutes that aren't actually things, right? So him saying stuff like, oh, I got to break the touch barrier, and they just do everything and they get everything, and I got to give and give and give, and they just taking whatever, and oh my God, I got to plan all this, blah, blah. And there's some things here that are inaccurate, at least in my experience. So for one, he says the whole witty banter, like, women know that women are great at conversation. So they're just looking for somebody that's going to be able to be on equal pairing with them. If you're putting forth witty banter, most women you're going to find are going to have witty banter back, but they're waiting to see if you're going to actually like have anything to talk about. The part where he says, I have to break the touch barrier. What I teach you guys all the time, I tell you guys that when you go on these first few dates, most women go on dates with guys that are grabby. What you're looking for is you're looking for her to give that soft touch first. And I've given plenty of ways to you guys on how you can put yourself in a position to where it leaves you open for her to touch you first on a level that's comfortable for her. And then all you do is mirror match. If you go on a date and you put your hand across the table like this and you just hold it there, and then she touches your hand, you now know you can touch her hand. It's like playing Zelda. Oh, you now have access to the hand kingdom, you know? And so then she might walk across right next to you and like bump up against you. Now you know her arm's at play. At that point, you can try to maybe put your arm around her. But the point is, she's ultimately going to be the first one that says, hey, touch, you can touch me now. All right. So where guys make the mistake is they've read this whole thing about, this thing used to call keynoing, where it's like, oh, you got to touch a woman so that way she knows that you're attractive and it's going to make her like you more. And most women honestly are creeped out by that because most dudes do it wrong. Like most women are like, they're going in timid first of all, and then they're like doing this kind of weird touchy grabby thing that makes women uncomfortable. But if you're waiting for, if you let her touch you first, then that can't happen because she's going to touch you at the level that she's comfortable with, and then that gives you a read on where to go and then where to slightly escalate from there. But you got to let them do it first. He says, have to initiate the hugging, hand holding, kissing, blah, blah, blah. Well, again, this all goes back to if you know how to read a woman's signals, then you'll find that she's actually making the first move. Like, for example, the kiss thing, right? If you, at the end of a date, look at her face and you're like, hey, had a nice time, and you're observant of where her eyes are, if you notice that she looks at your eyes and looks down at your lips and looks back up at you, you know she's saying, kiss me right now. I want you to kiss me. If you can't read that, then you're missing out on something very important, which is she's signaling you as if to say, it's okay for you to make the move. She's giving you permission passively, because women are going to be very passive because they don't want to come across as SLUTs. So it's going to be passive, but she's going to give you that signal that says, hey, do this thing. Or at dinner, she's giving you like these random sexual innuendos, which indicates, oh, I'd be down to do some stuff. Or you get back to her place. Hey, you want to come up real quick and like go to the bathroom, look at some paintings that I have, get some coffee. These are all moves that say, hey, I'm open to hooking up with you. You have to be able to read what they're putting down so you can put down what you got to put down. And yes, when it comes to the actual physical move, that's the logistics that you're going to have to do. But look for the opening part. She's basically, women are giving you alley-oops. So look for the alley-oop. Hey, come into my place. If you get in there, you don't make a move, that's on you, dude. Most women that are inviting you to their place, more often than not, are open to some stuff happening if you are able to look at the signals that she's throwing down and then know how to progress that. If you need help with that, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com and sign up for coaching. Anyway, so I just all that to say that, like, don't look at it like such a burden. You are creating romance for a woman because you're trying to show her that you care for her. And on her part, if you have a good woman that understands the balanced ebb and flow of a relationship, that's going to come later. Now, for you guys that have been showing all the romance for like 5 or 6 months, even with your girlfriend, and that's never happening, then one or two things is happening. Either A, she's not aware that as a woman, she needs to be doing that on her end, in which case conversation is warranted, or also she's just not that interested. And either way, that's a good thing to do. If you're dating a woman and at some point she's not throwing down like ideas for dates or romancing, then good. That lets you know off top that she's not the kind of person. And if that's not somebody you want to be with in that capacity, then find somebody else who does that better. Because there are plenty of women out there, trust me, there are plenty of women out there that will do the things. They will pay for the hotel rooms at times for vacations. They will take you out to dinners. They will get you cards on random days just to say, I was thinking about you. That stuff does happen. Not with all women, but with a fair amount, like more than men would probably realize. But the problem is you have to be doing what you're doing first to display your masculinity and display that you're a protector and to display that you care about her. And you're not going to get that from her if you're not showing it first, is what I'm saying, So hopefully, God, that helps you out. So before we get into the main thrust of today's show, if you guys have any questions you want to ask, you can definitely write in the chat and I'll be happy to answer it. All right. So let's get into the main part of the show. So we're going to talk about consequences of making women commit too soon. I have seen too many guys do this thing whereby they're interested in a woman and they're putting out all the stops. They're contacting her every day. They're asking her out for dates every day. And they might even get into a relationship. They might be dating for like a month. And he's like, hey, we should be boyfriend and girlfriend. She's like, oh, okay. And then so it's going good for maybe a couple of weeks. And the next thing you know, she stops texting. She starts ghosting. She starts saying things like, I think we should just be friends. And so I try to stress to you guys, there's a reason why I stress time and time again, it takes 2 to 3 months for a woman to solidify her feelings. It's not that you can't be the outlier, or that you can't meet a woman and then just you guys had that chemistry off that first week and you just get into a relationship and it can't work out. Like, it totally could. But again, I teach you guys on probability, and you have a higher probability of making a relationship or situationship or whatever work with a woman if you give her 2 to 3 months before any kind of relationship talk happens. And at the point where that's happened, she should be the one bringing it up. So today, I want to go through a couple of situations that I found on Reddit of guys that didn't wait and rush into a situation, and then you get to see what happened with those situations, right? So let's go with this first guy. The title of his post was, "She Won't Commit." He's 30 and she's 24. So he says, "A little history about me. I recently went through a divorce. My wife of 10 years left me for a coworker. Ouch. It took about 9 months for the processes to become finalized. And during that time, I met a 24-year-old girl. We hit it off instantly. We share many things in common. We work out together. She has a 4-year-old daughter. I have a 7-year-old son. We literally hang out together all the time. For a solid 2 months, we saw each other every day. Things escalated, and we fooled around a bit for a few weeks. We were both happy." So, those of you who watch me long enough, what do you think this guy's doing wrong? Well, let's go over it. For one, he met this woman and hung out with her all the time for 2 months. So 2 months of hanging out every day, right? That is 60 to 61 days. Assuming you met her this year. Yeah. So that's a long time. That's a lot of time to see somebody that you just met for the first time. Now, some dudes don't understand this. The whole thing of like, well, if we're spending time together every day, logically, that must mean we like each other. What's the big deal? The problem is that in the beginning, I found in my own personal experience that women need to have time away from you because they need to be able to sit with their thoughts and really think about you and where their feelings are at and how they're growing and what this growing means, and then what they really do like about you. Are there any potential flaws in this that maybe they're not seeing that they need to examine further? And when they're seeing you every single day, they don't get the time away from you to do that. Now, obviously, at some point down the line, like if you're in a full-blown relationship with this person or you get married to him, you're probably going to see him every day. But at that point, the woman's has had enough investment in you to where her seeing you every day isn't going to deter her, because she had that base early on when you first started dating of having time to herself to think about you. He's not giving her any time. So what's going to happen as a result of that? Let's find out. So he says the situation then got complicated when her roommate lost his job. Pause. She has a guy roommate. Now, it's not the worst thing. I have been a guy that has dated while I had female roommates. I will say that it can be contentious at times because there's always that thought that your girlfriend has of like, but could you be doing anything with her when I'm not there? But so again, hopefully this guy's not jealous of that. It is what it is. But anyway, her roommate lost his job and a few people at her job quit, making her job more stressful. So that means that I guess the work got piled onto her. That sucks. He says it was about 2 weeks after that, she told me she's not ready for a relationship, but she has feelings for me and doesn't want to lose me. She told me she wants to be independent and be a good mom to her daughter and doesn't feel like she can do that in a relationship. She's got a lot of friends that demand her time, and she's come from a few broken relationships where guys treated her like crap. I'm not those guys. I'm the real deal. So to start off with the last part about the, see, this is what you guys will do, right? Is that a woman you'll hear women say things like, I want to be friends. I don't want to be in a relationship. And then you'll start to try to rationalize why that could be. And so in this case, this guy's like, well, I mean, she's been in previous relationships that didn't work out that great. So that's probably was fair. No, it's not, because plenty of women get in bad relationships and it sucks. And we all have a past of being in horrible relationships. But the guy that comes along that knows how to do this dating thing right, she wouldn't be feeling that. So what's this guy doing wrong? Well, here's what's happening, right? It's not that she's getting more work piled on, because again, I've dated plenty of women that they're lawyers, doctors, teachers, whatever. They have busy schedules, right? But what's happening is the previous paragraph, he said what? They spent time together every day. What he doesn't tell is, but who was initiating that time? I'm banking on the guy, him, was probably the one trying to ask to see her every single day. And for those first 2 months, she was like, okay, cool. But at some point, she's also thinking, but at some point, he's going to like not want to see me, right? Like he recognizes I have other people to see outside of him. I have a job outside of him. I have my own things outside of him. I need my own alone time away from him. Like he's going to get that, right? I'll just see when he like stops asking me to hang out. And he never did. And so this is why I stress that, guys, when you first start dating a woman, you want to keep it to like once, maybe twice a week tops, until such a time as she starts suggesting that she wants to see you a little bit more. And even then, you should really only keep it to like no more than 3 times a week in those first couple of months, because again, you need to give her time to miss you, to think about you, to talk with her girlfriends about you, and to really sit with herself and think about what she's feeling so she can be more trusting of those feelings versus having to guess at it because she's seeing you all the time, right? So yeah, the fact that he's seeing her every single day, that's now making her think being in a relationship with him means that I have to see him every day. I don't want to do that because I have other things going on. And I'm getting the impression that he's going to be butthurt if I try to suggest that as much as I like him, I don't want to see him all the time. Because think about it, most guys can't have that conversation. Like realistically, if a girl you're liking right now came up to you, even if you're an introvert, came up to you and said, you know what? I enjoy spending all this time. I enjoy the time we spent together thus far, but I need a break. I don't want to see you all the time. Like your first thought would be like, danger, danger, panic. Oh my God, what's going on? Because it sounds stupid, right? How can this girl that likes me not want to see me? And even women get confused by this. They're thinking like, I like the guy, but why don't I want to see him? And it's because people, as much as you love a person, even if someone you're in a relationship with long term, you still need a break. They still need a break from you. And I think people get away from the fact that at some point in this other person's life, before I came along, they were a solo entity. And that means that they have habits that they do that they don't want to do in front of me. They might have conversations that they have with friends that they don't want to have with me. And they have the right to still have that. And I think sometimes as guys, we don't want to give them that experience of being able to still do things if they're solo, because it makes us feel like either A, they're going to leave us, or that they're going to cheat on us or whatever. And that's rarely ever the case, you know? Again, as an introvert, you should understand that people need their alone time. Hey, in the 2 months she's been seeing him, she's probably neglected her job. She's probably partially neglected her kid. She probably neglected her friends. And you need to be, as a guy, it's your responsibility to lead the relationship. So you need to give her the freedom to be able to do things without you, without applying guilt. When I'm in a relationship, I'm like, hey, please go see your friends. Please go to the movies without me. Please do other things that don't involve me, because I know that sometimes you need to get back to you, and that I wasn't always here, and that sometimes you have thoughts and things and feels that I'm not interested in that you want to get back to. Please do those things and don't think that I'm going to be hurt because I'm over here. And I'm getting the impression from this guy that that's not what's going on by the fact that she's like, well, I'm not ready for a relationship, which is translation, I'm not ready for the kind of relationship that we're currently in because it's taking time away from other things that I care about. And it doesn't feel like you're going to allow me to do those things without having some kind of say in it, you know? So anyway, he says, after she told me that, it hurt. Exactly. Because to be fair, she doesn't know how to have the conversation of, it's not that I don't want to be with you. It's just that I don't want to do the relationship as we're currently doing it now, where I'm seeing you every day. She doesn't know how to verbalize that because she doesn't understand it. And he's being hurt because now it feels like she doesn't want him at all. So anyway, so he says, I feel like I got more out of the 2-month relationship with her than I did out of my entire marriage. I was hurt when she told me that, but I'm understanding that her situation is stressful. I took about 2 weeks where I didn't talk to her much and tried to process the fact that she wasn't ready for a relationship. Again, she's not ready for the kind of relationship that you're, based on your actions, are wanting from her. If you were the kind of guy where she could see you 2 or 3 times a week and still be cool, she'd probably be totally fine with that relationship. And you having a kid, you should understand that. He said, after 2 or so weeks, we started talking again and spending a ton of time together again. And last week, she told me she still has feelings for me and it's hard, but she's not ready for a relationship. I don't know what to do. Well, here's what to do, is that you need to stop spending so much time with her. You need to pull away your attention so that way she can focus her attention on other things. And more importantly, as you're allowing her to do that, she's going to be not seeing you, thinking about you. Think about it. You went 2 weeks and now you're back to talking to her. Great. So that means in those 2 weeks, she had time away from you. So now she's re-excited to see you again. You need to give women the ability to be re-excited to see you by giving them breaks from you. So you could see her, for example, like a Tuesday or Wednesday, and then don't see her again until Sunday. Give her that 3 or 4 days to not see you, to do other things with other friends, and then come back and A, have more to talk about, and B, be appreciative that you were not a jealous guy. You didn't hang over her head that she wasn't spending time with you, and that you allowed her that break. And she's probably going to be so much more appreciative of that, because I'm guessing other relationships she's been in, she wasn't given that ability. And you don't want to be one of those guys that's also not giving her that ability, you know? He said, I can't get her out of my head. Well, it's because he says, I think about her all the time. Well, it's because you're pedestalizing her. And this is what happens when you don't have an abundance mindset, is that you think the person you're dating in front of you right now is the end all be all, and that you got to try to make it work the best you can, because it's not because ideally the person you're dating, you want to make it work. You want to make it work with that person. But it's the fact of like, you're thinking, I have to make it work because I can't find anybody else, versus I'm going to try to make it work because I think they're a good candidate. But if it doesn't work out, there's others out there. You should always be looking at the women you're dating as potential candidates to date, not as the end all be all or the only option for you. That's where the possessiveness comes. That's where the neediness comes. That's where the anxiety comes that you're going to project onto her. She's going to feel it and then be like, I don't want to be with this guy because he seems too anxious and he seems really, really obsessed with me. And I just want a chill dude. And right now you're not being a chill dude. He says, her family and friends love me. Her daughter adores me and actually shows me more attention than her real dad. My son asks about her all the time. Here's the other mistake you're making. What I tell you guys, say in the first 2 to 3 months of dating, you should not be meeting a woman's family or friends. Now, I'll be fair and say, because this woman has a kid, if she lives with her family, that's going to be a hard thing. But the fact that you've only known her for 2 months and you're already meeting her close friends and family, again, these are examples of moves that indicate to her that you're more serious about her at this point in the dating process than you need to be. And hey, to be fair, some women don't know that. Some women are going to be like, well, I'm cool with him and I like him a lot. So yeah, he can meet my friends and family. No big deal. And then after it happens, she'll be like, she met him. That's great. Wow. He met my dad and my mom. I only bring like relationship guys around. But I don't want to be in a relationship with them. Like, that seems like a super serious move. Oh my God. Like, is this where we're going? Like, but do I even want that? Question. So this is why this is an example of you as the guy have to know what moves are going to be beneficial in those first 3 months and what moves are not. Even if she said, hey, come meet my parents, meet my blah, 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 you have to know as the guy, this is not the right time for that. And you have to say, you know what? I'd love to do that. But honestly, I kind of want to wait until we're in a relationship. If we get into a relationship, I want to save it for that, because I don't want to like meet you. I'd say this. I don't want to meet your parents. Then like we don't work out. And all of a sudden it's like, I met these great people that I can't talk to anymore. That's realistic. Realistically, because think about all the breakups you had where you met these awesome friends, you met some awesome family, and then it doesn't work. And now you can't talk to them ever again. And they could have been great people, and it sucks ass. So say that to her. Say, you know what? I want to wait until we're really solidified as whatever we're doing before I meet those people. And hey, women that understand the dating process will respect that. And more importantly, they'll respect that you recognize that you set a boundary and you're taking lead on where this journey is for both your and her feelings. But if you don't do that, you end up like this, where it's like, no, she doesn't want a relationship. Yeah, because you've been doing all these relationship things that are making her feel like you're farther along in the process than she is. She's still trying to analyze all this stuff, and you're allowing actions to happen that indicate that you're already there. You can't do that. He says, I'm trying to respect the fact that she needs time, so I'm just trying to be a friend because I don't want to lose her in my life, but I honestly don't know if she'll ever come back around to the idea of being with me. Well, here's the thing, guy, is that we're not in this for friends. So if she gives you the, hey, I think I don't want to be in a relationship, I just want to go back to being friends, I would honestly be like, well, you know what? I'm here to date you. So if you're not ready to be in a committed thing, that's totally cool. Like, we can just get on to dating and we can maybe see each other less. But if you're just trying to take it to a friendship, I'm not down for that. So if you change your mind, hit me up and best of luck. And you walk off. And you'll be surprised that doing that, women will think like, oh crap, like, so he's not obsessed with me because he just was able to just walk off and he's actually willing to not have me in his life anymore. But do I want that? Like, I'm not sure, I need to think about this some more. I'll go talk to my girlfriends, And either way, it's showing her that you're not desperate for her attention or that you're not desperate to have to specifically be with her. And that's the vibe you always want to give off, is that ultimately, as much as you would like this person to be in your life, if it doesn't work out, you'll be fine. Because women don't want the pressure of thinking like you're going to off yourself or do something harmful to yourself if they happen to leave. That's a lot of pressure. But ironically, because they don't want that pressure, they'll leave you in the dating process because they're looking at the long term of, if I get to know this guy, we're dating like a year from now, and then we want to break up, he's going to be all like stressed out and wanting to off himself, and it was going to be my fault. So don't give women that impression, He says, this part here, he says, I just got out of a marriage. I'm not looking for something long-term right now or super serious. Lie. But that being said, I don't want to play games either. I just want one day at a time. And if we string enough days together, figure out the more serious stuff later. I just have feelings I've never had before and want to explore them with her. So I'm at a loss for what to do. So notice everything he said in this last paragraph is I. I just got out of marriage. I'm looking for something like this. I don't want to play games. I have feelings I want to explore. He's not looking at what does she need to happen to make sure that the feelings that she's exploring for herself are going to ultimately be beneficial to what he wants, right? And so this whole thing about he's lying to himself because he says, I don't want something serious, but then he's turning around saying, but I want to take it one day at a time in case it gets serious. For one, that's literally the dating process. The dating process is, I don't know if I want to be with this person, so I'm going to do things to find out, and then hopefully if it works out, great. If not, I'm moving on to something else. But what most dudes do is say, well, I don't want something super serious, but then they start doing things that pressure her to make decisions that indicate that he's super serious. You know, the whole like, well, I'm not looking for something long-term. I just want to spend every day with her. That's what somebody that's looking for long-term is trying to do, is spend every single day with her. So he's saying one thing, but then doing things that indicate to her that he's already super serious, that he only wants her, and that he wants all of her time, none of which is going to work in his favor, okay? But all that to say to the point is that this is an example of what happens when you are trying to do things too serious too soon, is that the woman gets scared off. A woman that has high interest in you will start to double think and think, man, like I think I kind of want him, but it's only been 2 months and he's already want to be boyfriend and girlfriend, and now it seems too soon. And now he knows my family. He's seeing me every single day. He can't seem to get a break from me. Like, am I even there with this guy like that yet? And so this is why I urge you guys to be patient. You are better off making the mistake of only seeing a girl once a week until she complains about it. And the complaint will be, hey, I want to see more of you. Which means what? I'm making the choice to say, I want to see you more versus you hounding on to her. Hey, want to see me today? Hey, want to see me again today? Hey, want to see me tomorrow? Hey, should we play for this weekend? Like, that's all saying, I'm taking your time. I'm not going to ask you if this time's allowed. I'm going to assume that you like me. I'm going to just take all this time. And in the process, you are not letting her come to the conclusion that she wants all of your time. So you got to let women do that. So that's the first message I saw. Then I saw this other one, which this is a guy that really rushed into a relationship too fast. He says, the profile title is girlfriend 22, dump me 23 because she's, quote, not ready for a relationship. And he says, I met a great girl on Tinder in June. We dated for a bit, and soon it became more serious around the end of July-early August, which we were both happy about. So this must have been a thing that I saw from early on or later last year. But anyway, so to recap, met her in June, dated in July, and then August, it was a bit more serious. Okay. He says this past week, she hasn't been herself and contact wasn't the way it had normally been, but I put that down to her suffering with depression and anxiety and made sure she knew that I was there for her if she needed to talk. All right. So again, I've done shows about this. I will say this, because I got a little bit of pushback, so I'll say this. If you are dating somebody that has depression and anxiety, make sure they're doing all the things. Make sure they're doing all the therapy, taking all the meds they need to take, because I ultimately believe that people need to be able to find people. Everybody has the right to find somebody. Much in the same way I feel about single moms. Not that you can't date them. It's just there's more that comes with that. There'll be more baggage, more things to have to maneuver. If you are a person that can handle that, kudos to you, but don't be surprised by the moves they make. But that said, I do not think that her depression and anxiety is making her suddenly see this guy less. I think a lot of guys feel like, oh, because this woman has BP or because this is that, that's what's happening. And I can tell you, not that I've dated a lot of girls that have had these situations, but I can tell you that if you're doing the right things in the dating process, even amongst them having these things, you'll be the person that they're going to better alleviate those symptoms that they're feeling. If that's not happening, it's because she's probably starting to lose interest or you're doing things that are causing her to question her like for you. Anyway, he says on Tuesday, she said she wanted to just be friends and that she, quote, thought she was ready for a relationship, but she wasn't, end quote, after what turns out to be a very bad breakup and relationship with her last boyfriend. I've been through a bad breakup as well as having a bad relationship with my last girlfriend, so I felt that I could try and help her get through this, but she said she just needs time. All right. First off, you are not Captain Save-'em. Take the cape off. Secondly, this whole thing about that women use as an excuse, that men put out there as an excuse, which they say, oh, well, she must be acting this way because she went through a bad breakup and had a bad relationship. She doesn't trust men. Again, I've dated women that were in previously bad relationships and they get to me. And because I know how to pace out the dating process, I don't give them any pressure to make it a relationship. Therefore, there's nothing for them to think about, like in terms of, am I trying to force them to call themselves my girlfriend? I'm not, but it allows me to apply patience. It allows them to come to the thought process on their own that they're actually ready for a relationship with me and that they now are making the decision to want me as the boyfriend, at which point I'm still not asking them to even be the girlfriend, at which point they're wanting to come to me and say, hey, so what are me? Because they're in their head thinking, well, is this guy using me for sex? Does he actually want to date me? Does he like me? Does he not? Like, what's going on? And I'm thinking these things, but I'm not sure where he stands. What does this mean? Could it mean that I actually have feelings for him and that I'm now ready for it? And so I let them come to the conclusion that they're now ready for a relationship with me to where they can come ask me all the questions. Most of you guys aren't doing that. Most of you guys are like, well, we saw each other for like 2 weeks or 2 months, and now she get all flaky. And and so anytime I see this kind of thing, what it says to me is that the guy was the one that asked for the relationship. Because if you are a guy that never asked the woman for a relationship, all you're going to find is that women that like you and that have dated you long enough are going to come to you asking for a relationship. It's our job as guys to try to seek out the physical hookup from them. It is their job to come to us and see if we're ready for a relationship. At least that's how it's worked the best for me. For me, your situation may vary, but between the guys that I've coached and have told them the same thing, and they've backed off from the woman they were trying to pursue. And then the results they've gotten is like, yeah, I got patient and backed off. And then she came to me and like wanted to do all the things, wanted to ask about the relationship. I just know based on results that that's typically what happens, because our pacing for wanting to be in a relationship is surprisingly a lot faster than women's. Like after 2 or 3 good dates, we're like, I know all the things. I want to be with her now. And then we start trying to push our agenda. And again, this doesn't take into account how women process things in the dating process and what they need to actually happen, what they need to feel before they have a commitment. That's important. They need to feel ready. So while you're thinking it's been 2 months of dating, why isn't she ready? She's still possibly analyzing you. She's still maybe getting over that. Hey, maybe she is getting over that ex. Fine. You're dating a woman that just got out of something. It's even more apparent that you don't pressure this, because all she's going to think is, he's trying to rush me into a new relationship. Why is he trying to rush me? I just got out of something and I'm still trying to question what happened over there. She could be thinking, I need to make sure that I'm the right person, that I have the right radar on for this new guy before I completely dive into being in a relationship. So you can't come to her saying, hey, so we've been dating for like 2 months, like relationship, what's going on? But again, I have found for women that have just got out of a relationship, if you are patient and you're just like, hey, if she comes to you and says, hey, so just so you know, like we're dating and all, but I don't want to rush into anything, your response would always be, you know what? I'm here to have a good time, go on a few dates, and just, and just be the best person I can be. That's it. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to pressure nothing. If it ends up something, fantastic. But for right now, I just want to take it one step at a time and just have a good time. And then you literally go on these dates, you show her a good time. That's it. You're not bringing up heavy subjects. You're not bringing up what are we's, how do you feel about me's, what do you think about me's, none of that. Because confident men don't do that. Confident men, if you're a confident guy in the dating process, you don't have to ask any of these questions, because you're going to just assume you're doing a good job. And you'll know that because when you ask her on dates, she's saying yes to dates. She's not flaking. She's hooking up with you. She's making out with you. She's cooking dinners for you. All these things should let you know in the process, I'm doing a darn good job. And that confidence is going to make her even more attracted to where she's going to want to be in your world, and she's going to want to ask to make sure that nobody else has you. So this guy around here, oh, I want a relationship. I need a relationship. Don't chase a relationship, guys. Stop chasing relationships. You focus on showing her the best time possible, and that's going to make her inevitably want a relationship with you. It's really that simple, because she's not going to come across guys that are showing her as good of a time as you are. So you don't need to pressure yourself and pressure her, more importantly, into making this have to be a relationship. Anyway, he says, let's see, I've been through my breakup, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so he says, I have a few questions about all this. First, I'm just unsure of how I should act. You should act indifferent to the outcome. You should act like a guy that knows that he can get other women. Now, if you're not that guy, this is why during the dating process, you should be continuing to hit up other women, because on the off chance this doesn't work out, you don't care. You have other women that are going to go out on a date with you. But more importantly, because I know some of you guys are like, but I don't want to be the guy that's dating 3 or 4 women. But you do this early on. Like I said, this guy is 23 years old. He needs to get into the practice of recognizing that if this doesn't work out, there are other women out there. The easiest way to do that is to actually do that. Like you're dating one girl, but you're dating 3 or 4 other women just in the dating process, not in the relationship part, right? And then so what happens over time is you'll get in your head that, wait, if this girl doesn't work out, there's other ones out there. So then you can decide on your own accord to just date one woman at a time, but you'll still give off the vibe of a guy that knows if this doesn't work out, there's others out there. And that vibe needs to be there so you don't look so desperate, because women don't want to date desperate guys. Women want to date guys that feel as though they can get other women. Sorry, I found it to be true in my own dating life. Your results may vary, but I found, because women, that indicates to women that you know how to take care of women. And that implies to her, you'll know how to take care of her also. Women that don't get the feeling that you know how to actually take care of women aren't going to want to date you, because it threatens their safety. Anyway, he says, should I wait for her or should I try and move on? I feel just be friends is a clear sign of her wanting to close the door. But the next day, her saying about, quote, needing time has kind of given me false hope. The answer might be obvious, but I'm quite shocked by how things have changed, because late last week, we were talking about meeting each other's friends, which is a good sign. No, it is not. Because again, this goes back to what I said about the previous guy. Just because she's bringing up the idea of doing something doesn't mean it's good for the dating process. And more importantly, one, you were doing future speak. We don't talk future anything unless it's like you're calling up and saying, hey, let's go on a date this Friday. But if you're in the dating process, like 1 or 2 months in, you're not trying to talk about, yes, when we become a couple, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, or, oh, well, we're going to meet each other's friends, this and that. Like, no future speak. You let her do future speak. You don't. Because again, you doing future speak is going to indicate to her that you're already thinking about future, which indicates you're already there with your feelings for her. And if she's not there, you're out. And then also, the thing where he says, needing times, give false hope. Talking about, the other thing about the friends thing is that, again, during the first 2 months of dating, it should just be you and her. So there should be no talk or any semblance of, hey, let's go meet each other's friends, because you still need to get to know her. You need to make sure that her feelings are solidified for you before you go on this whole thing of like, oh, now we'll bring other people in. Because I'm telling you guys, in those first 2 or 3 months of dating, you meeting her friends, you have a higher probability of her friends making some kind of observation about you, or saying something that's not true, or doing whatever to sabotage this thing. And a lot of women have single girlfriends that will try to sabotage her and her dating situation, so that way she can remain single with them. It's a savage world out there in the world of women. I don't envy it at all, because dudes be like, I'll go with the club with dudes, and dudes be like, yeah, go off, have a fun time, or actively try to help you get with the girl in the club. Women, I find, tend to be the opposite, and I'm sure there's like safety reasons behind that, but also there's a lot of jealousy reasons. So you don't want to go anywhere near her friends until you know for sure that she like is completely all about you, and nothing at that, because at that point, even if friends say stuff about you, it's not going to be as easy of a break for her to like take their judgment versus what she's experienced with you as it will be if you do that early on. So no, it's not a good sign. I mean, it's great. It's a great sign in the sense that it shows that where her thought process is in terms of like her seeing you potentially in her life long term, but that doesn't mean you actually fall for the bait, you know? He says, after talking with my friend yesterday, I felt that I had sorted through some things in terms of no longer worrying that maybe I should have done more to try and save the relationship, and was hoping to maybe be starting today to heal, but today I just feel restless. He says, finally, because the relationship was so short, so listen, 2 months total of knowing each other and 2 official weeks of actually being a couple. So a month and a half, 6 weeks. That's all the time they dated before they decided, or before they got into a couple of them. What my guess is at that point, he probably asked her to be the girlfriend, because let's face it, guys, we get a lot of bad training. Most of you guys up there have been based on watching TV and movies and hearing R&B songs, think that in order for her to be in a relationship, I need to be the one to ask her, because otherwise, how will we get into a relationship? And so he went up to her, hey, so we've been dating for a while. It's been really great. So can we be in a relationship? And most women being women, they're friendly and don't want to hurt your feelings. And this girl's like, we've been dating for a while, so I should say yes. And they'll say yes, not knowing that that's not actually the answer that's in their best interest. But what's the other end? Is if they say, well, no, not yet, the guy's going to think, well, now she doesn't like me. What's going on? And again, sometimes women have a hard time verbalizing what these things are. What she'd actually be trying to say is, look, I'm still getting to know you, so I want to still take my time to get to know you. This doesn't mean that at some point down the line, I won't want a relationship, but for right now, I'm not there. Most women don't know how to have that conversation. So instead, they just say, yeah, and then the guy starts seeing her too much or texting her too much, and the next thing you know, she's like, I'm out of here, and he doesn't know what's going on. And it's because, again, you as the guy have to know how the dating process works. Like, I'll go back to the guy earlier about how women don't romance men. It's like, you have to always have a plan. You need to be the one that has a thought out plan for how your dating cycle is going to go. Based on my dating cycle, I found it's like across the board, 2 to 3 months of dating will usually get your relationship. So that's what I've stuck to throughout my dating life. And it has worked tremendously. All right. So for this guy, he said 6 weeks. That is not enough. Think of it like baking a cake. That is not enough time to bake a full cake, right? If you put it, if the recipe says bake a cake for 30 minutes, you take it out at 15 minutes, guess what? You got kind of a cake, but you also got something that's going to fall flat. This is how relationships fall flat. A month and a half of dating, let's get a relationship. And now she wants to just be friends. Anyway, 2 months total of knowing each other and 2 official weeks of actually being a couple. I'm not sure how long I should take before moving on. Right now, I almost feel like I don't want to risk upsetting my ex by moving on too soon in case she gets in touch and says that she's made a mistake. And he says, I'm not really expecting her to do that. So guys, I need you to do this. I need you to get over how your ex is going to feel if after she dumps you, you start dating somebody right away. For one, it was 6 weeks of dating and 2 months of 2 weeks of a relationship. That's not anything. But more importantly is that you do not owe her an explanation of how fast it takes you to move on. Hey, at this point, I'm very indifferent to stuff. So it's not that, like, if I break with somebody, it's not that I'm not hurt about it or that it might not take me a couple months to get over it, but it's also like, I don't feel like I owe that other person, because one, if it's a breakup, I'm not trying to see them again anyway, and I owe them nothing. And number two, if they happen to come across me and find out, oh my God, you dated somebody else, well, they dumped me. Why do I care how they feel about me dating somebody else now? It doesn't matter. But what I've also found too is that you being able to move on to somebody else actually gives off the idea that you're not as needy of a person as maybe she thought you were. And sometimes women just need to either experience or be able to see with their own eyes that you're not the needy guy that they thought you were to want you back. Because understand, needy behavior is a very dangerous thing for a guy to have and for a woman to feel from you, because that basically threatens their safety, because needy guys are desperate guys, and desperate guys are willing to do anything to get this girl. And they see it as that. And if he's that desperate, then if I get with somebody else, he's going to possibly harm that person, or he's going to be stalking me at work, all these other various things, right? So that behavior is not becoming of guys. So back to this guy, at the point that she was like, I thought I was ready for a relationship. For one, it's not that she wasn't ready for a relationship, it's that he wasn't doing the things that made her feel comfortable in the relationship that he was currently displaying to her, which was probably to hit her up all the time and have all these other things, But more importantly is that you need to show her that that's not you. And up to this point, he hasn't done that. He hasn't been able to show her that he's not desperate and needy, because even as he's coming off now, oh my God, I'm feeling this and that. But like him being able to step away and be able to be with somebody else, if she comes across that, she'll know for sure that, oh crap, I messed up. I thought that I was dating this guy that was desperate for me, and it turns out that wasn't the case at all. So I say to you guys, stop worrying about these women's feelings. Like, if you are able to see somebody else, if you have the opportunity to do that, don't care about what your ex thinks. She's not the picture. You can go date them, hook up with them, whatever, because I don't want you to get stuck in this thing of like, well, I got to be holding off and wait for her to come back because she might come back to me. There's no telling that's going to actually happen. But more importantly, you don't need to be waiting around for that, because you're putting yourself basically in a holding cell for this person's feelings. Oh, what if they come back to me? Meanwhile, she's off dating other dudes and talking to other people, and she ain't caring about you. She could go out to a club tonight with her girlfriends and some dude hit her up and be whatever, and she's not going to be thinking, I want to hook up with this guy, but oh, my ex-boyfriend, she ain't going to care. So you don't need to care for her feelings for you when that's happening either, all right? But anyway, all this is to point out, notice, guys, these are all the consequences that can happen when you are effectively basically committing too soon, right? Real quick here, I just want to briefly go over a list here that I put together of the things of that. Let me see what that is. Hold on a second here. So to recap all this, basically, I want to go over real quickly the 5 negative consequences that ultimately happen when you are trying to make her commit too soon, all right? And when I say that, I mean, when you're the one coming to her saying, hey, we should be in a relationship, if you're the one asking, it's too soon. So first thing happens is emotional strain. This really puts a burden on a woman to have to make a decision about you and about her at a time where she's not ready for that. So unless she's coming to you and saying, hey, what are we? When that happens, that's letting you know that she's gotten to the emotional point in her journey with you where she's not ready to fully commit and have this be a next step. If you're doing it, then it's going to cause her to feel like it's forced. It's going to cause her to stress out about is she making a good decision or not? And you don't want a woman to be in that place. So when you ask her, that's what happens. Another thing is a lack of trust, because what can happen is this. You come into her 6 weeks into the dating process and say, hey, I want you to be the girlfriend or whatever. Well, now she's going to be thinking, why is he rushing this? Why is he forcing me to be in this thing? Why is it he asking so soon? Is it because he just wants somebody by his arm? Does he actually like me as a person, or he just wants a warm body? Like, what's going on? Like, it causes women to actually question more why you're trying to suddenly force this from just a dating relationship to a full-on relationship, all right? And so she's able to, that's why I say it takes 2 to 3 months for a woman to solidify her feelings. Part of that is it helps her to really see you in a day-to-day, to really start to build up the confidence that who you are is actually how you are. And when you supersede that by trying to get into a relationship too soon, it's going to cause her to have less trust, and she's not going to want to do it, you know? Another reason is relationship instability. So what happens when you ask a woman to be your girlfriend and she's not fully there with her feelings and she says yes? Well, what happens is a lot of back and forth, of wibble wobbling between, well, no, I mean, I want to be in a relationship, but well, I don't want to be. Well, I still like you, but I'm not sure I'm ready yet. And you're going to find that women that you make say yes too soon to you, that's going to happen. It's going to be a lot of, they're not sure what's going on. And then you're wanting all their time. So now they're not sure if they want to give all that time up. And it causes a lot of like misreadings of feelings and emotional stability. So this is why, again, you are going to be on the woman's time. Your job is just to show up, have a good time, ask her for dates, repeat. And then as she does more of that and she spends more time with you, she will come to you at the point where she has solidified her feelings. And notice, I say solidify because that means her feelings to you are solid. They're not unstable, at which point she's definitively knowing, oh, this is the guy I want to be with. And there'll be less of a hassle and a chance of her later on recanting that. Another reason is personal growth is hindered, okay? Because basically what's happening is when you ask her too soon, she's still trying to also, in addition to dating you, trying to figure out, how do I fit the rest of my life around this guy? Because he's going to want some of my time, but my friends are going to still want my time. Is this guy going to allow me to spend time with my friends and not be butthurt by it? I'm going to need my alone time. My job's going to need my time. My boss is going to need my time. And I got to figure out how all that's going to structure. And she needs those first 3 months to figure all that out. But that gets hindered in the process when you're trying to ask her after a couple of dates, hey, be my girlfriend, because she doesn't know yet what that ebb and flow feels like with you guys in your dating relationship and how that's going to match in with the things that she has going on in her day-to-day life, you know? And then also potential for long-term dissatisfaction. She needs to be completely sure that you're the person she's going to be satisfied with in this relationship. And granted, relationships are a lifelong thing, and women are apt to change their minds at any time, whether it's a year from now, 2 years, whatever. But that first 3 months is very, very important, because she's going to look at that first 3 months and say, based on these first 3 months, am I satisfied with the potential pick in this guy that I have of possibly dating him? And if you haven't allowed her to get there yet, she might say yes in the moment after like a couple of dates, but that doesn't mean that she's ultimately satisfied with the yes being the final decision, i.e. the decision being you, all right? Versus if you just wait it out, when she comes to you and asks for the relationship, there is no doubt that she is satisfied with you as her pick. But you're going to have a lot of doubts if you're asking her and then she's begrudgingly saying yes, and you feel it's begrudging, you're thinking, also make it work out. But no. You want her to be the one to be like, yes, hey, what are we? Because I'm ready to be in this thing. What are we doing? All right. So those are just some five negative consequences that you face from when this kind of stuff happens. All right. So ultimately, guys, I want you to be in successful relationships, and I want you to date women that are all about you. And you probably have some women you dated that would have been there, but you asked for the relationship too soon. And the trick is you asked for the relationship. You should never be doing that. You always want to wait for her to come to you and say, hey, what are we? I want to be in a relationship. And then from there, you're going to find there's going to be a higher chance of relationship satisfaction, because she's coming to you. She's hit that 80-90% of high interest that Doc Love used to talk about, RIP Doc Love. And you really want to get to that point where you can practically do no wrong. And she's just all about you. She adores you completely. And if you don't allow the cake to bake per se and allow her to get to that point, then you're doing her and you a disservice on what could be a great relationship. So I just wanted to point that out, guys. Anyway, that's really all I have to talk about today. Thank you so much for watching this show. For those of you that really are interested in getting to one-on-one coaching, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com and click on the coaching tab. We also have various ebooks, audiobooks, and programs there, all designed to help you date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. Also go to the website to get a couple of my albums. We have Non-Wom's album out right now, which is No Girls For You. And we have the Kevin Samuels Was Right album, which is done by me, which I've heard from people is very enjoyable. So thank you for you guys that have reached out and given me feedback. So I appreciate, I put a lot of work and effort into that album. So again, it's the Kevin Samuels Was Right album at the website. Be sure to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and I'll catch you guys on the next broadcast. I'm out. Peace.
Call this beat Will Smith, cause it slaps hard. Hear it not when I pull up on your boulevard. Ain't got no rims spinning, ain't got no chain blinging.